Having completed my PhD on the topic of inner peace from an Islamic perspective, I often get asked, so what does help you to attain inner peace? And it's something I've thought about quite a bit, like considering especially I wrote a thesis of 90,000 words on the topic of inner peace and spent many years on it. I have thought about it long and hard. So I would say that there are three factors that contribute to inner peace. There are many, but these three I feel like are the dominant ones. The first one is trusting in the wisdom of Allah. The second one is belief in the afterlife. And the third one is the meaning that we give to life and events. So the first one, trusting in Allah's wisdom. We have to trust that there is wisdom in everything that takes place, every event that happens. And the reality is sometimes we may not see that wisdom in life. We don't see, there are veils in front of our eyes with certain events, and we can't always understand the wisdom in those events. But the key part of that is that you have to trust in the wisdom of Allah. Let me give you an example, an analogy to help you understand what I mean. Say you know someone in your life who is, very reliable, very wise, and, everything they do generally provides you with confidence and security and safety. But this person on one occasion does something and you don't fully understand it. Let's say you invited them to your house for dinner and they chose not to come. Now, because you trust that person's wisdom, you might think there's wisdom why they didn't come to my house. It could be A, it could be B, it could be they're not well enough, it could be that they were busy with something. So you don't take it personally. You trust that there is a reason why they did not choose to come to your house. Because you have built that relationship with that person, because you have confidence in their judgments and their decisions. Similarly, when you have enough knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you are aware of His wisdom, then even when events happen around you or around the world, you trust that there is wisdom in that, and that will give you a lot of peace and comfort. So that was the first one. The second one is belief in the afterlife. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have belief, but not just belief, but conviction in the afterlife. You see, if you don't, when you look at life and events and you don't take the afterlife into consideration, it's like a half-told story, because this life is only part of the journey. And a lot of things will not make sense unless you take the afterlife into consideration. If I give you some analogies, it's like a book, a novel. It's like a half-read novel. When you've read a novel halfway, it doesn't make sense. You might get snippets of ideas and you might get an idea where it's going, but unless you read it till the end, it's not going to fully make sense. It's like a puzzle where you've only got some of the pieces in the puzzle, but they're all not on there. Again, you're not going to see the bigger picture. You're not going to be able to fully appreciate and grasp what that picture means. And finally, it's like a drawing, which is like a puzzle. But if you're drawing something, if you've only half driven that picture, again, it's not going to give you the full appreciation of what that picture is meant to be and what it means. So similarly, when you're seeing life events that are taking place in this life, whether it's in your own life or in the life of others, unless you believe in the afterlife, unless you're consciously thinking about how this event is linked to the afterlife, then it's not going to fully make sense. And this is particularly because things like justice will not fully prevail until the afterlife. And if we don't believe and trust that justice will take place in the afterlife, a lot of the time we will feel miserable, we will feel frustrated, and we will feel oppressed. So the belief in the afterlife is a critical part of attaining inner peace. And then the third one is the meaning you give to life and events. I would say that this is quite linked to the first and the second one, in that what meaning do you give to life and events? How do you interpret events that take place in your life? And we see this sometimes with, positive psychology and even some of the most wise sayings. For example, failure. When you're going through something and you fail, Do you see this as I'm failed, I'm no good? Or do you see this as, well, this is my opportunity to grow. I will learn from this experience and try to do better. So two people can have the very same incident happen, but depending on the meaning they give to that situation, they could respond to it very differently. Yes, I get it. Sometimes our life experiences influence the way we think, but this is something that we can work on. And so therefore, what meaning you give to life events can drastically change your mood, your state, and how you feel about a situation. Even something like death. Like my father, I'll give my own example. My father passed away 3 years ago. I could be thinking, well, my dad passed away, I missed him, I wish he lived longer. Or I could think, inshallah, he's in a better place. This life is temporary. He was old, he was unwell. At least his suffering that was taking place has ended. Inshallah, I'll reunite with him in the afterlife. So you can see how the meaning that we give to things can drastically change the way we perceive them. So if we want to attain inner peace, there are 3 things that we need to do is trust in Allah's wisdom, have strong conviction in the afterlife, and view everything in this life from that lens of the afterlife. And we have to give meaning to life and events that give us a sense of peace and comfort.